Hey everyone, I'm Amanda, and this is Wellness Me Up. This is where we're going to talk about all of the weird and wise and just wildly supportive sides of wellness with coaches that you can actually connect with when you are done pretending that everything is fine. Today, I am joined by Heather Cypel, who is a intuitive psyche specialist, an energy body specialist, and a relationship energy specialist. And so I asked Heather to sum up their approach to wellness in one or two sentences. And here is what Heather said. The energy body is the blueprint for the physical body, psyche, and emotions. Working in the energy body will be the deepest layer of the root cause and where I choose to focus on having healing. So let's see if what Heather has to share today can help you get a little bit more wellnessed up. And welcome to the pod, Heather.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here.
It's really fun to have you here too. This is the beauty of the internet and doing these things, right? Because we can just have a conversation with somebody across the world. And
Absolutely.
right, what time is it where you are right now? You're in the States, right? US, yeah, you're in the States.
Yeah, it's right around 2:15 p.m.
2:15. And so my computer says it's 3:11 because that's still Eastern Standard Time, but I know it's more like 7 o'clock, like where I am across the globe right now. So I love this. This is fun. It's a nice way to spend a Saturday night to just have a conversation.
For sure.
Right on. Okay, so on this podcast, I focus on so many areas of wellness. And there's six that I tried to I don't know if you could mush wellness into like one specific category because there's so many moving parts of it. But
Right.
I try to get like a good spread of wellness things that are happening. And that way everybody gets an idea of what flavor of wellness you help them with. And
Yeah.
so we talk about, I've had coaches for spiritual wellness, relationship wellness, emotional and mental health, physical wellness, all those life transitions and identity things that we can move through. And then there's also financial and purpose wellness. So, really excited to hear about what area of wellness you focus on, even how you got into wellness, all of this kind of thing, that area of wellness that you're working on, and then how you support people through that area of wellness.
Absolutely. Yes. So I definitely am under the spiritual header, and I do a lot with emotional and mental health for the purpose of relationship health. So it's kind of three of those all in one.
Mhm. They all just kind of like come in together, right? Like it's not, how can you say you do one thing? I had one coach be like, well, all of them, because you don't know what's going to be happening when you're talking with somebody and what pops up, right?
Absolutely.
Um,
And we definitely can go into all of those aspects if a client is needing that, or even if they don't realize that it falls into one of those other headers, we definitely go there.
How did you get into this? Like, how did you get into the spiritual? Because you've got a few titles here, and like hearing that specialist, like we've got psyche, energy, we've got relationship. How did you get into this?
So it's a slightly long story, so I'll make it real short. um, I, many years ago, did not know anything about energy work, didn't even know that I was doing a lot of energy work naturally, that a lot of my energy skills were already online. Because when that happens, it just feels normal. It feels like something that you just do. And so life blasted really hard. And I really had a hell of a go of it. My anxiety spiked. I didn't realize that there was a lot of rigid energy in my system that was cracking at that point in time and cracking me open. And I really do believe, like, I was always spiritual. I came in through the lens of religion. So theology was my first passion. I had my first spiritual awakening at 4 years old. So I've been pondering deep theological concepts most of my life. And whenever I had what you would refer to as a conscious mind awakening, starting to realize that energy is everything and you can work with it, I just started taking every class and researching every topic, and I came to it pretty quickly. I felt like it was slow. I actually got upset with my higher self, and I was like, you waited this long to remind me of the whole of what I'm doing here. I was in my early 30s back then, and I felt like I was so old already to be just having awareness to have conscious direction. But of course, I learned that I had been doing what I was doing all along, and it was, all okay. Um, and so I started learning quickly. And about a year or two after I had been taking classes left and right, I had been working with an energy healer. I came across a training that was intensive and it was deep. Like we drop into the energy body and we work the different layers from there. So we get things flowing that aren't flowing. We repair the energy body. We move major life things around. But that was sort of still unfinessed, right? It was a way more intelligent way of going about it, way more than those initial early levels of energy work, where there's not too much variation. The practitioner kind of maybe works on you, or we talk about certain things, and the person is still sort of left on their own journey of it. You know, Whereas this, it's like we're dropping into the energy body. We're learning about ourselves right then and there. It's undeniable. If you're like, no, my energy's flowing here just fine, then you get in your energy body and it's like a big old blocked wall. You're like, oh, maybe it's not. So you need actual hands-on process with that. So I did that for a while and really loved it until I reached a glass ceiling with even that type of work. So I put it out to spirit, like, okay, look, I love the energy work that I've done. I'm grateful that I can participate in this way. And I'm going to need energy work that works faster and brings consistent results, because for me, that was what was not happening, the consistent results. And so a couple years later, I actually had some energy tools download to me, and I've been working with those for the last like 5 to 6 years. And that was when things really connected for me. And it was like I up leveled in a way that I had always been wanting. It feels like, I was just waiting for that level of energy work in this lifetime. And I've been so grateful for it, because it is definitely quicker and it's intelligent process. It's not just like kind of, praying out to spirit or having a guided meditation or doing like a gloss over. It's really in there, and I feel a lot better whenever I can participate and choose, because I do believe that our choice is something that we should gain more access to. Because we choose from the mind, this is what we want, and then we try, but then our energy body doesn't necessarily get on that same page with us. And I do believe that this work finally gets our energy body on the same page with our mind, and then we can just move forward very easily.
Well, this is a very, very, very interesting take on this. So when you were saying intelligent energy body with the wellness and doing this space, can you give some more examples about how this might feel different than what you were doing before? Like when you said you were like, okay, I've done this before, but I still felt like there was more. There was more that I could discover. There was more that I could lean into here. How was this different from what you were doing before? How did those blockages remove itself for you? I'm very curious.
So, I mean, I can't wait for even more layers to
Yeah.
unlock. But for right now, the first energy tool that came to me, I started working with it. I realized pretty soon after I was working with it that what it was doing was defrosting the energy body. And, I had learned how to drop into the energy body, any part of the system that you want to navigate, see what's working well, what's not working well, and move. So I had no awareness that a large part of our energy body is actually frozen. And it comes from the painful and challenging situations that we had in life. And, we handle trauma in different ways. And definitely our trauma responses can be various. But I realized that sometimes we try to wrap our mind around a situation. And if something happened and 1 minute later we comprehended, we got our mind wrapped around it, our energy body still had frozen energy incur, like right in that split second, that shock effect. And my definition of trauma now has become very simple. It's something that your system didn't know how to process or handle in the exact second that it happened. And so it simplifies what what it actually is so that we can work it correctly, right? And so when I realized that there was frozen energy all over my system, it really gave me a whole new perspective on trauma and how we approach it, right? So it started melting away this trauma. What I started realizing was that it's very heavy, just like ice is very heavy. It keeps things in looping patterns. We all know that trauma does have looping patterns, but this made a lot more sense as to why. I also realized that the frozen energy is our own energy. And you have diminished capacities after you experience a lot of trauma. And that's why some people can say, like, I feel exhausted after sleeping all night. I'm soul level exhausted now. It's just so much of our own energy freezing. So when you defrost, you get more stamina throughout the day, which is absolutely amazing. And I realized that the painful feelings that we have, it's sort of like things that got stuck in the ice. If you think of like outside ice freezing, it may be sticks or leaves or little bugs or whatever. And those are the emotions that come out as triggers. And we can have like unreasonable reactions to somebody and blow up on them. And it's not relative or relevant to the amount of upsettedness we may have had without that on our system, right? And so when we defrost, those little things that are stuck in that frozen energy just floats out. Sometimes, rarely actually, sometimes we actually feel it as it's coming out. I think in many layers of energy work, we've just come so accustomed to sitting there and processing through the painful stuff and almost like this forehead to the floor, like it's an honoring kind of experience. And I did that. I went through the deep feminine wounding and all of the painful crying your guts out and processing all these painful things. And what I can tell you is my body had a terrible, terrible go of it. I mean, there was so much cortisol flushing, there was adrenaline pumping, the unpleasant, little dopamines that go in the brain that cause all sorts of stuff. I lost so much weight. Um, because that's not actually healthy. And I didn't know that, right? We were going through a phase in our existential history where that was honored, it was revered. It was like, that's what the feminine does. We process all this pain. And I'm like, hell no. Like, I'm a big no to that anymore. I'm like, defrost that crap so you don't actually have to process it. Don't think about it. Don't speak about it anymore. And that might sound like repression, but when you have an energy tool that you're like, no, 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 I'll deal with that tomorrow. I've got time tomorrow to sit there and defrost. I'm not going to deal with that today. It's actually healthcare because your own, chemicals aren't like flushing and causing all sorts of havoc to your system. And the other thing that I noticed that happened was that it's what I call uneclipsing. So I have a firm belief that our heart's desires are in fact made abundant to us. We just have some blockages towards between our heart and the things that we truly desire. And when I started defrosting more and more and more and more, the very things that were just right for me just started landing in my life. I didn't intend for them. I didn't, do manifestation practices. Like it just started happening. And I had really great results with a health issue that was like degenerative that was happening. And I was pretty well into the mid swing of that. And I was like, I know there's something there. And I had been hunting for over 30 years, trying all types of different, doctors, practitioners, treatments, anything that I could find. And none of it did a stitch of anything other than maybe a little bit of relief, momentary relief. But then I started finding the exact right things, and I wasn't even doing energy work on that or trying to land it in my life. But all of this trauma just receded away, and the very correct things that were right for me landed. And I realized something else, that our energy body being frozen creates more limitations than we might know, because our energy body is what communicates with spirit, right? So when we're
Mm.
manifesting, it's like it has to have a place to land. We know the chakra systems, we know the different parts of our lives that these areas of our energy field govern. But if there's frozen parts there, then something in that area of our life can't really land for us. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I was so bad at manifesting practices before. Like it was just I mean, I could manifest a penny on the ground, but that was about it. And then when this started happening, I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. I'm
Mhm.
available to receive what spirit actually has for me.
Is asking for that. The imagery that you are braining up in my brain right now with that terminology of defrost and thawing out, comparing it to outdoor. Like I think right now we are recording this episode and it's middle of March.
Yeah.
And so that the season of winter, like that's in there, like those blockages, things are still going to be out there frozen. 1 minute, it's tricking us, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so spring out there, it's ready to be summer. Nope, ice storm coming in real
Right.
fast. And
Yeah.
so this is really, really beautiful language to translate how we can start moving through things the same way that seasons happen, the same way that what's for us is going to happen for us. We can release these energy blockages. Sometimes, though, so what happens is people don't know, like, unless you've done this kind of extensive training or have this,
Right.
like, have done this, the coaching, the learning, all of it, we don't know what it is that we need. And we just know something is wrong in our bodies. We're fucking crying all the time. We can't move. We're stuck. Like even recently, like I threw out my fucking back
Oof.
because
Yeah.
I had so much unprocessed emotions of things that I just was like not doing any of the things. There's all these blockages that came up for me. And I threw it out right in that root chakra, done. Nervous system shot completely. And
Yeah.
I was like, something's got to change. And I don't know what it is. And it was like, hey, how about you just try to breathe and move through
Yeah.
this and accept this new life that you've been manifesting and doing and all of this stuff. And you're here now. But sometimes we don't know what it is that needs to change and we just get stuck. So when that happens for people and the clients that you're working with, how is it that you are meeting them in that moment with all of these tools that you have to assist them to get through these things?
Definitely. So now I recommend defrosting as kind of a first step.
Okay.
There's actually energetics that become exposed once you defrost a lot, and that's where we begin working on shifting what your response is, what your patterns are. But for the first while, I recommend defrosting. Now, I do have a free little mini energy transmission to do that. But I also have, so the mini one is just like general trauma, like defrost for the trauma.
Mhm.
But on my website, I have a selection, right? So you look for the thing that you've had the most pain around. So, right, like the trauma of abandonment, the trauma of betrayal, the trauma of heartbreak, neglect, I mean, all of these different ones. And pick the one that feels like you want to be rid of that pain first. And I always say pick the biggest one first, pick the most painful one first, because you get more of your own energy back, and then you can direct yourself more easily, right? You have more agency and more choicefulness, and that's where we're going. We're getting that choicefulness back in our system, because what we choose, the universe hears. But when we're choosing it out of our mind, it almost feels like our prayers are hitting the ceiling sometimes. And that's an unpleasant experience, that when you're frustrated and you feel stuck and you're like, "Ah, I just need this." And you can feel it, but then there's all of these distorted teachings that are like, yeah, but if you need something, then you're telling the universe you're in a state of need. Okay, I teach opposite to that. I'm like, you know, like learn your system and learn your needs, right? And, another thing that I teach is like the energy body archetypes. Like these are the operating systems. And this is just going to be something that you operate as. Now you can operate as a higher octave of it when you get a lot of those wounds resolved. But one of the ways that I teach is these unrealized things in people's personalities that they often make wrong about themselves. I teach it like you need this, like you need air to breathe. And one of the system types needs conflict, like they need air to breathe, right? Which is a challenging experience in life for a lot of people because the four-fifths of the other, system types, they don't really like conflict all that much, right? But when you can realize this, like, I need conflict, then you can put yourself in places where you can spar a little bit with people, and not take that out on your loved ones, for example. So there's these little shifts that can be made, and needing something is actually crucial. That's priority. We don't disregard those. We don't like we own it, like the universe knows you need things. We need a
Yeah.
roof over our head, food, air, etc. But there's a lot of intrinsic processes that we need as well. And so I don't feel like being in a state of need is in any way the problem. It's the stuckness, it's the frozenness, right? So if people come to me, say, for example, with a relationship issue and they're like, my person is just doing this. Do I have to leave them? Right? That's a painful moment. And a lot of my clients do come to me with that kind of question on their heart. That might be one of the main questions that I get because people naturally gravitate to me for relationship stuff. I do kind of niche into it. But I'm like, well, 75% of the people were coming to me for that anyway. So it's not
Oh,
such a
that's
big stretch.
Mm-mm,
But
not
yeah,
such,
when people,
especially with that's how that's been manifesting into it, right? Like what people are getting stuck in that,
yeah,
that's what they're coming to look to you to help with these things because that's what they are feeling like they need, or this is why they're not moving forward in these things because maybe some past traumas are coming up from, we're
right.
on loop and these things are happening, repeat. Like, why does this, it's like life is this mirror, right? All the time. And we're in this cycle and it's hard to get off of that
Yes.
cycle sometimes. And so you were kind of talking about it already, right? With this little bit of a shift that starts to happen because that's what's going to propel them into these wellness realizations and their goals. And this
Yeah.
concept of needing that conflict, because sometimes people view conflict as a horrible, scary fucking, oh, let's not do that. All of that's like, it's bad. Conflict is bad. We should avoid conflict, right? We can think of ourselves as like a turtle in a conflict or a shark or a fox, like any of these kind of animal creatures that we might want to be, and how
Yeah.
we approach conflict and how we receive conflict, all of those kind of things, our communication styles, even. Conflict, though, is not a bad thing to have. And I don't like, I
Right.
really don't believe that it is. Like, I remember a high school teacher I have, and it always stays with me. And she said, conflict is a problem to be solved. And just there's a lot of growth that can happen in conflict, but because of our perspectives around conflict, we get a little freaked out about it. So with this shift that happens with you talking to them about conflict, is that what kind of starts to propel people into those their wellness like realizations and goals when they're working with you, whether it's through relationships or any of the other cool shit that you're doing? So
Yeah. Definitely. There is definitely value in the mind getting on board with how to frame things because, I mean, I I deal with relationship energy, but that's not just romantic relationship energy. That's you with spirit. That's you with your work situation or money energy or whatever. It's all this relational energy. And when we can comprehend our own system, the operating system, then we can proceed forward with a little bit more smoothness, I guess you would say. Like you're not fighting yourself and you're not making yourself wrong. So I do find that I do teach their operating system to them so that they're not making themselves wrong or fighting a part of themselves that just, didn't go well. I'm
Mhm.
actually in the process of recording the training on the different energy body archetypes because when I was younger and my daughter was little, I wish somebody would have explained her system types to me. And, they say the children, they don't come with a manual. And she was a teenager, almost out of the house when I started learning this. And I just realized I would have made actual different decisions. So my system is everything that I'm coded for is for resolution, right? And
Mhm.
I do resolution really well, which is great
Mhm.
because when conflict comes up, I'm not very nervous with it. I just simply begin to work to resolve it, right? And that's different for different people, different for different situations. But my daughter's system type was the type that needed conflict. And so every time she would start conflict, I would work to resolve it. And I did not realize that people with that particular system type need sparring. They need that conflict to last a very long time to get it real saturated,
Mhm.
and so when she could just dig her heels in the sand and just be obstinate, right? A lot of people with that particular system type get diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, but they actually just simply need you to spar with them for a little while, then they'll do what you wanted them to. And so I just thought my kid was ornery and difficult or whatever, right? I mean, she was also sweet and lovely and all the other things too. But that one particular spot was challenging for me, especially when I would get off work, come home, and then she was like, "Okay, let's spar," and I had
Let's
no
go.
framework for this, and she wasn't getting her needs met. And last year, she told me, "You traumatized me as a child." And I said, "Okay, tell me." And she said, "You never yelled at me." And I was like, "That's valid. I hear your perspective." Just to note, I actually did yell at you because I remember vividly every time I yell, it hurts my actual throat. So I do recall vividly yelling at you. Like you were the one person that could get me to raise my voice. And it was nowhere near enough, is what I heard her saying, right? And now
Mhm.
she's an adult, and both of her children are that particular system type, and they spar a lot. That household is very, very loud. And I can respect it. And I could be like, okay, they're getting their needs met. And then I could even participate every once in a blue moon and spar with them too if I want to. And
Mhm.
so it definitely helped me grow as a person, understanding the different operating system types. I wish I had known when my daughter was younger. I would have definitely made two pivotal different decisions that really impacted the trajectory, of what she was getting. And to think that me not providing sparring was a malnourishment, that she wasn't getting her needs met is, it's a little hard for me to swallow because I would have never realized that. It would have in my own framework, I would have never perceived that was a need. But I was a big proponent on ensuring that she got all of her needs met. And oof, that was
Mhm.
one to handle, to process. So
Teenage energy will always, always throw us. Like we might think that
yeah,
we've got it one way, but then something else comes in completely. I used to work
absolutely.
as a child and youth worker. And so there was so many different types of kids. Like no kid was ever the same. And
Right.
every child needed something a little bit
Yes.
different. What might work with it. Like we could have as many systems and tools as we would want to work with any of them
Yeah.
that might have worked for one plan of care for that child, but for another child, nowhere near. They need something completely different.
Yeah.
And so, but it takes perspective and a little bit of like I don't know, the word chameleon is kind of coming into my brain right now. A little
Yeah.
bit of a chameleon energy to be like, okay, let me step outside of this for a second. What is it that you need? I can be self-aware enough to hear that this is not working and we're in this right now, but sometimes kids would need that. Like I remember
Yeah.
restraints even because some of these kids would actually physically need to feel that
Yeah.
safety around them and stuff, and like they would say thank you after, and it was just like, hey, can we like just ask for a hug or something next time, or do we
Yeah.
need to like
Right.
get into like this? But that's what would happen. And other kids would, yeah, they needed the snuggle pile. That's what they needed.
Right.
And whatever else, that gentleness, right? So it was just sometimes they needed a little bit of a charcuterie of all the things throughout the week. So we never
Yes.
know what it is. This is a very enlightening conversation. So I can imagine that there would be a lot of surprising moments with clients when they start working with you, when they start really holding up a mirror and figuring out who they are or the relationships around them and what was going on, what was happening, needs were met, not, and that the the word that's like the value and the virtue that's coming up for me a lot here is accountability piece and being able to see that. So what are there usually things that are when clients are working with you that they're really surprised about when they start working with you, like, oh, I didn't think it would be like this.
Yeah.
What
I
are some
call it
things?
epiphanies. I'm like, I expect epiphanies, right? And so those awarenesses come from them, come from the inside of them, right? Like, for example, I had a call recently with someone and it was a free call. It was a free offer that I had, 30 minutes, let's chat, let's get some things resolved. And she just started listening to the free little mini trauma deletion that I had. And the very first day afterwards, she's messaging me with like all of these epiphanies, and it was just a big long paragraph of what came forward for her. And I was like, one night, I usually say give it 30 days, like I'm listening to it overnight. And she's like, day one. And it was all coming forward. And the things that she was saying were so introspective, and it was a relationship piece. And she did come and with the perspective of like, he's more stuck, I keep trying to talk about these things, and I'm like, this is a very, very common thing. Women think from their mind, so then they tell their partner, and that's not how the energy bodies originally operate well in romance. This is why romantic relationships are close to my heart, because I'm like, we can have so much quick resolution. Like we can have that incremental progress like so well, because a lot of the females' energy bodies are very, very frozen because we're magnetic polarities, right? So we're that feminine polarity. Our system is generally designed that way, right? We do have electric energy, we do have that masculine energy, but our process is designed to be magnetic. And the masculines is that electrical. It's not so much of the mind. Neither person, right, is going to be so much in their mind. And so, what I really love to convey to people is that a masculine responds when they feel a pulse, like an alive pulse, come from the female's body. And I've seen it to where men don't even really realize what they're doing. I've seen a man hop up off the couch and start walking and not realize what he was going to do until he was halfway across the room. I saw his face like just like get the realization of what he was even going to do. And that's how it works naturally. I use the example of like if a woman it's midnight and she wants a chocolate ice cream, and she tells and like she doesn't even necessarily like realize it yet, she's just like having like chocolate would be nice, and all of a sudden her masculine is like, ooh, would you like some ice cream? Like the only store that's open is across town, right? He's like, I'll drive across town, right? Whereas if the female was like, I want some chocolate ice cream, and he doesn't feel that pulse, he'll be like, everything's closed, the only thing open is across town, are you going to drive to get that, right? And then here starts the conflict. And I've had personal experience of this before I even learned anything about energy work, you know? And I was in a relationship and he just knew what I wanted before I knew I wanted it, right? It was so natural. But a lot of our energy body gets frozen over painful experiences in relationship, in life. The more frozen it is, the less clear that that pulse is going to come through, if it comes through at all. So a lot of the relationship problems, it sounds mean to say, it sounds like a salt in the wound thing, but I say 80% of how a relationship goes depends on the female's energy body. If she wants to change the tone of it, she drops in, works her energy body. A lot of the time, people will come to me and say, yeah, but he's really wounded. He's had a lot of trauma. He can't shift very easily. But the thing is that men don't actually need to shift so much as long as they're feeling that pulse and moving on it, right? You can actually have a lot of health and wellness and improvement. And for the men who are willing to, you know, try something new, if she's listening to a defrosting audio transmission overnight and he's there too, he's going to get the benefit of that, right? So win-win all around.
It is a win-win. And this is also why I think so much about the female conversations, the friendship, the dating conversations that happen between us all the time. Us
Yeah.
gals can talk on repeat about our dating situations, what's happening, what's that guy doing, all of this. I like, and I've had some really wonderful conversations with my male friends as well, but it's not as front and center sometimes. So when we have those outlets with like our female counterparts to do this, but you're right, it's almost on like setting up these little challenges. Like when I'm thinking about the ice cream, that's a challenge. Like the man is going to reciprocate and do that. We've set that up. Like this is what I
Yeah.
want. Like not let me now provide and do those things. I'm gonna really need ice cream after this too, like in a totally different one.
Right.
So good. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay, so there would be so many elements of, oh my gosh, surprise. So the epiphanies are happening nonstop when they're working and going through all of these things.
Yeah.
This is cool.
And I think too, like an unexpected result would be to like notice how their, you know, boyfriend, husband, romantic partner actually manages to shit. Like it's so surprising because it's not conscious, right? It's not the
Mhm.
conscious mind. It's not directly linear or related. It's like he just suddenly started doing the thing that you wanted, or bringing up a conversation that you're like, really? That I never heard you have that perspective before, or expressing in some way how he actually understands what she's going through. Because I think that's a big key point too, is a lot of people think that their significant other doesn't fully comprehend, so they have to explain it more and more and more and more. Pardon me. And I think that when they realize that he was understanding all along, I think that's a really surprising result that they have.
Mm. This is beautiful. This can explain so much. So when this airs, I'm just going to be like, okay, we need to chime in at this time, gals. We're going to listen to this part over. And
Yeah.
we are now going to have some answers about why things may not be working out the way that we think that they should, or why we need to over explain our thoughts all
Yes.
the time or do these things. And that's also a trauma response as well, right? To
Yes.
get into over explaining of, oh, I need you to understand where I'm coming from of where this, but that it may not be relevant to what's
And
actually happening, like not in that situation. Yeah, go ahead.
my throat does that occasionally.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I noticed a lot from a long, long time ago, I've been very present to this fact, is that when it's a pure emotion coming through a woman, a man can be there. He can support her, he can handle that. if it is a distorted emotion, you see the most awkward, uncomfortable looks on a man's face, and he's trying to get the hell away as fast as humanly possible, trying to find somebody else to come in and fix the situation. Like what do I do? But a woman gets a wounding around that because she's like, this is my emotion, this is what I'm present to. But what I want to like comfort people with is that pain on your system, you don't want it there. He doesn't want it there. And it's causing a lot of hell for the relationship, right? He doesn't have a problem being with your emotions. He has a problem being with blame. He has a problem being with stuff that's nowhere near this relationship. It's from decades ago. He has a problem not feeling like there's a resolution. And but when it's a pure emotion that's coming through, and this is just what I'm present to, a man has an issue with like realizing like I can be here, I can hold, I can be the mountain, I can be the support, but that they do not innately feel that. And women don't know how to process that on their own because it's frozen. It doesn't digest, it doesn't move through no matter how much you talk about it. And when we project that, it causes pain. And quite frankly, I see why a lot of men leave. And that sounds cruel, that sounds mean, that sounds harsh, but I do see the wounding for both the females and the males. And for hundreds of years now, it has been the case that both genders have had lots of wounding. I know right now we're really focusing on the feminine wounding and
Feminine.
all of the misogyny and oppression and violence and abuse. And that's for us to defrost. Um, but there's also been a lot of difficulty for the men because when the men don't feel the pulses coming off of a female system, they go into their mind and they try to do their best. And it's been that society has broken the two apart and put the man above the woman. That hurt the man just as much as it did the woman, because without him getting those pulses like it's a closed circuit when they're connected, like the light switch. When you turn it on, it closes the circuit. Now you have power. When you break that circuit, you have no power. And so men get blamed for stuff because they didn't handle it well. But really, that intrinsic part of the female system being able to connect makes it flow properly. It makes that man more intelligent, more competent, more present, more caring, all of the things that we would want a man to be. But with frozen energy on the female system, you can't fully make that connection, right?
Yeah, it does not move the needle at all when that happens. Like it just, there's that broken energy that's happening that you were talking about, right? That's what that shift is there. And it's just like, that's that blockage that's
Yeah.
happening right there. So you can feel these things when that's happened. And there's a
Yeah.
big disconnect, and that does happen between both. I remember even working one of the gigs that I had was working at the courthouse, and I remember even a gentleman coming in once and just looking around at all of the resources there were for gals, and he's like, "There's not like there's like one pamphlet in here for men, and what do we do, right?" And so there's it's just it's there I believe you're really on to something when it's the system. There's something going on with the circuit here that's just not making things flow, and there's blockages there with what
Yeah.
starts to happen. And so many of my guy friends, I know that some of them are going to be listening to this too. They're going to be like, what about us? Like, are we talking about us? Yeah. They have just as many feelings and intrinsic thoughts as us gals do. I have some wonderful male connections that really can just dive deep and talk and get into those layered thinking in the chats, and
Yeah.
can help me with my blinders a lot of the time too, and give me perspectives and room for growth just as well. Like there's that great balance there when
Yeah.
they're, when it's complete, when that circuit is complete there, that phrasing.
For sure.
Heather, you are very okay. All right. Okay. So this is one of my favorite parts of the show.
Okay.
Uh, so we never have any idea when a client comes to us, we are never going to know what exactly it is that they're coming into us for. And something could happen to us, something could happen to them. All sorts of shit happens throughout our lives. Blockages come up. A
Yeah.
relationship ends, something goes on, a new perspective arrives that, oh, I didn't understand this like 20 years later. Why am I getting this now? Right? Things
Yeah.
happen in our life. And because I like to keep things very random and absurd and very human, that's why I'm spinning this question. So I put 6 questions onto a wheel, and I let ChatGPT decide what questions are going onto the wheel. And I throw
Cool.
these questions in, and then we spin it, and we're going to answer one. So we could be having a very deep conversation like we've been doing now and getting very layered. Even I think it's going to go that way anyway. But we could also be talking about our, because it seems like we're talking about relationships. I don't know, we could be talking about our ex's astrology sign or something like that. Who knows what way we're going to lean with this, but
Yeah.
there's no wrong answer. This is why I love that we can just go wherever we want with this. So I am looking for my share screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the sound. I'm going to spin this wheel for us. So that way it will choose what we are going to answer. Can you see this okay?
Yep.
Okay, let me click this button, see what chat wants us to answer. Oh, it's like right on the line. Okay, so this is asking what's your I'm fine lie? Like something that we all say, oh, I'm fine, but I'm absolutely fucking not okay. Like at all. What is your I am fine lie that you might share?
Yeah, so I am not super great on the fly. I like to ponder things and really feel into my emotions and parse them out and have like 12, here are my present, things that I'm all like actually feeling about this, in a much complex way. So if somebody demands in the moment, then I oftenly will be like, I'm fine, because I know I'm fine and I will handle my stuff on my own. And it also, I'll use that when I don't fully trust the other person to know the full truth, right? Like when
Mm,
they're the system type that's like either going to try to fix it and they're nowhere near the depth that I do, or they have nefarious intentions and giving a little too much data will be giving them ammo to use against me. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, actually.
you're like, I'm good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good on that. I actually don't need to do that and go into this. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so true though. That's so
I've
true. Yeah. Mhm.
unfortunately had a lot of people like that in my life. So I ended up most of like the deeper woundings that I've had is just more like ooh, like intensity. Back off, like I'm not a sparring system type, but 90% of the people I'm biologically related to is that system type. So I was like, I always felt like a kitten on a field where tanks were playing bumper cars, and I was like running and dodging, trying to get away, like ah. So
Like,
yes,
how do
I've
I
had
get
to.
out of this? Mhm.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
had to use that. I'm fine. A
I'm
fair
good.
amount.
Like, what's happening? You're coming for me. I don't know what's going. Like, daggers have been thrown. I don't know how to do with this. Like, why is there so? What's happening out here right now?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Mhm.
Fortunately, most of them did not have nefarious intention, but a
Okay.
couple of them did.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Yes. That's fair. Oh my
yeah.
goodness. Yeah, that's a very fun answer to that. I never know what's gonna happen with this wheel and what we're gonna end up asking or like have and getting into there. And
That's
it's
so cool and
very
fun.
interesting that
Yeah.
when like the people that are showing up in our lives on repeat, I like to pick up on those things because I cannot count how many times over my life I thought, oh, we're here again, this type of human, this flavor, this is what we're working with again. And I have this opportunity to think about everything that I've learned, and I can do a quick check with myself, process. I have that self awareness. Am I going to choose differently this time? Or am I going to do the same thing on repeat that I've done with this flavor of human before that I know I've encountered before. They have very familiar energy. And
Yeah.
here we go again on this, right? And so it can sometimes feel like a little bit of a merry-go-round. And I like, so like, it's never bad energy, but it's always like, what am I going to do differently with it this time?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting to think about what type of people keep coming into our lives and why is that happening and what are we learning about ourselves with that, right? So
Exactly.
interesting. Hmm.
It's the navigational part that I really hone in
Hmm.
on, right? Like the how do I do it differently is a big part of the question. And how do I see what I have not yet seen
Hmm.
previously? But the how to's is really where I started doing a lot of the energy work. That was my passion. That was my reason. It's like, I want tools to shift this. I
Hmm.
cannot shift it on my own. I remember in college, I was sitting in an anthropology class and I realized like we can understand our patterns as the day is long and not be capable of shifting it. Like I had that awareness as a teenager and I was like, okay, I'm not cool with that actually. Like there needs to be something more than talk therapy here, you know?
Hmm.
And thankfully I found it.
Your anthropology class gave you a lot more to think about with mine. The only thing I remember from my anthro class was I don't even know where this came from with her, but she always told us to eat a piece of chocolate before an exam. And it's just because of the endorphins that would come out. And I thought, you are the reason that I want to have chocolate anytime I'm about to go do something stressful. So thank you for that.
Funny.
And I'm now, and then the chocolate ice cream too that I'm thinking about still from earlier. I'm gonna need to go
Yeah.
get that chocolate ice cream. It's gonna happen. Oh my gosh. Okay. Heather, the last question I have, and I want to before I end, because I know that there's always going to be like, as soon as I hit end record, we always have such a cool conversation after the podcast. I'm like, why didn't I just keep
Right.
recording and then just edit it out after and be like, oh no, now we're actually ending. And I want to make sure that you get an opportunity to talk more about anything else you want us to know about your coaching services or any of that. But before I do, I love to ask this question to wrap it up. And it's the name of the show. So I've been loving asking everybody what the words wellness me up mean to you in your own words.
So that to me, it's the word resourcing. And I feel like a lot of women, especially, have been going through this realization that they need more resourcing. And so the phrase to me that has been coming up is increasing resourcing. How about we just set that as an intention? And I feel like that wellness me up is like the drawing in, the soaking in, like wellness, and also the direction, right? I've used the phrase choicefulness a lot so far. It's like when we choose like wellness me up, like I'm moving in this direction, it can populate more options that are just right for us.
Oh my gosh, these are so fun. I'm going to literally have just a sequence, I think, at one point with everybody giving their different answers to this because the perspective is beautiful. And I
Yeah.
love that impact of choice because we do have so much choice. When we are faced with the blockage or we're faced with a wall, any of those things, sometimes we can look around in desperation and we think that we have no way out. I've thought that a
Right.
hundred times in my life. I
Me
can't
too.
do that. I can't do that. And it's just so limiting because there's no expansive energy when I start thinking that way. But as soon as I take that down and as soon as I make a choice to say, oh no, there are infinite things that I can do here, the whole world opens up. It expands like it's I can do so many other things, but we get stuck on the thing that
Yeah.
we think that we can't. So that I love that with the element of choice. Yes, and choosing wellness because you're right. There is a lot of opportunities when we choose this for ourselves.
Absolutely. I
Oh,
always say if you want your prayers to be answered, pray for either one of two things: clarity or an open door. Because when we start praying for an open door, it's like our mind and our energy system starts looking like, where's the open door? Like, and it works way better than
mhm.
praying for a specific result.
That's right. It's like going through a maze. I can find my way through this. Like, just get me through. Even the corn
Yeah.
maze, you can just dart right through there, but you're good. Like, you can get through it.
Yeah.
Oh, Heather, this is amazing. Okay, so what is the best way? And I think you've already mentioned it, but let's end up with this way too. What's the best way that people can connect with you to learn more about you and your coaching services?
So you can reach out in any of the contact ways. I'm on all of the major platforms. I would really recommend the little trauma deletion audio download. It's free, why not? I always recommend putting it on, like downloading on your phone or a device in your bedroom, putting it on repeat, putting the volume off, and just clicking play before you go to sleep. You can be having energy work experienced, for 5 to 8 hours, however long you sleep. I still do it for myself. I think it's absolutely wonderful. So why not, kind of thing. And yeah, so my website is my name, heathercypel.com. And the two offers that I have most recently posted is a 1 month container called the Repair Series, right? So I have breakup repair, where if you've undergone a breakup, but you still feel like you're pulled or you're drawn or you still have emotions about it, a lot of the time we need an energy body repair after the end of a relationship. It does kind of create some fringy edges. And sometimes, if it was a painful breakup, it can actually create like a hole in our energy body. So and then I also have relationship repair. So we get energy flowing and connection and aliveness and a lot of old pain coming off of someone's system. So that's sort of my entry level spaces. But I do recommend checking out the energy transmissions that I have available. And I'll be putting more up on that page too.
Please keep me posted on all of the things that you are offering. And I would love to promote it and share and just do so much to help you do all this meaningful work that you're doing out there for people. Because these are
Thank
really
you.
incredible things to learn about yourself and how just getting curious, flashing that flashlight on ourselves a little bit. Oh,
Yeah. And giving ourselves some grace through the process. It can be
yeah.
gentle. Yeah, I know energy work sometimes lately, the deeper stuff has been a little painful, a little bit of rough energy, but this type of work is definitely gentle and smooth.
Mhm. Yep. Okay. Noted. I am so glad that we connected. Is there anything before I hit end record that you are wishing that you had shared on this?
I would say, well, I have not mentioned that I have an energy school.
Please tell us about the school. Tell us about the school.
Okay, somebody actually wants to really go deep and learn this deeper type of energy work that I've done. What we do is we defrost the energy body first and get a lot of frozen energy defrosted. And then in the second module, we go in and look for what's exposed underneath that frozen energy that was making all of those painful situations happen. We don't go near the wound at all. We go behind the wound and pull out the fuel source. We unplug that wound. And the most painful things in your whole life literally like just crumple away and they're not there anymore. And you can remember the events, but it does not have any pain anymore. And you're no longer patterned for that experience, right? So there's an actual funky looking little energetic in our system that creates our patterns, which creates the wounds, which creates the trauma.
It's like creating a blank slate. Like,
Well, it allows your own essence to come through at those spots.
yes.
In essence, we're unlocked. It's like if you think of like, okay, so like your arm is like frozen, and then you've got these junk programs here. It's like your whole arm is operating on like
Mhm.
old, processes, painful stuff, survival mode, and then like you get those like removed, and then your energy can fill up to here, and then you'll find more here, and then
Flowing.
so on and so forth. That's an oversimplified way of looking at it, but essentially you get more autonomy over what's happening in your life than the survival crap that we were incarnated into, and it's like the concept we have to get our soul lessons. Our soul chose for us to have these particular
Mhm.
experiences. We incarnated here. And there was definitely something that was going to create those, that was going to ensure that that happens on repeat. And it's like if you're a train going down a track and there's like a fork, and you're like, I am going to go straight, and then like, but the lever is set to go to, turn. So then you're going to turn, and then you come back around and you're like, okay, this time I am going to go straight, and then you turn, and then over and over again,
Mhm.
you're like, no, I'm going to do this. But like, it's really ingrained in your system, and you don't necessarily know why. The really cool thing that happens when we get these, I call them junk programs, when we get these little junk programs out of the way, and the energy body like lights up, and you have more agency over that part of your system, you become, this is the only word I can think to describe it, you become more competent. Like, you know how innately to handle things that you did not innately know how to handle before. It's amazing.
My jaw is completely dropped. I know that if people are listening to this instead of watching it, they're not going to see the facial expressions and all of the things. But this is why at the beginning, so I always get the coaches to, and I said this at the beginning, what your approach to wellness is. And as you're speaking, I want to read it. And I've never done this before. I should start doing this, but I want to read it again with everything that you just said. This is, and I said, sum up your approach to wellness in one or two sentences. And you said, the energy body is the blueprint for the physical body, psyche, and emotions. Working in the energy body with the deepest layer of the root cause, and where I choose to focus on having healing. And so that is you finding that blueprint and getting to that. Let's feel more confident and aware and self and choose and choice, all of that. Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
I know, which is
Um,
why when I hear people saying, let's get to the crux of the problem, the root of the issue, and we're going to resolve it from there, and then they
mhm.
go out, they do a reading on your system, right? It's not even in your energy body at all. And then they try to do something that's going to resolve it. And I'm like, it's on a cellular level. All of your system is processing through that particular energetic that's there. No one outside of you can shift that. You have to be, you not only do you have to be hands on deck, but to break a junk program, you have to really concentrate on it. You have to focus on it like laser beams shooting at it, like you have to focus
Mhm.
because it's a part of your intrinsic operating system. You're going to operate differently afterwards. So you really have to break it with intention. And somebody else giving you a reading and doing that's not going to do it.
My brain is lit up right now. I need to go get some chocolate ice cream and I need to process this and then I need to listen to this all over again and then I want to go to your website and download. Oh my gosh. I'm
Yeah.
thinking already with my own dating life. I'm thinking, holy shit, there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that I need to work through. I can see why that people would come to you for a lot of the relationship things because when you start seeing these patterns come up, it's like, how do I stop this?
Yeah,
How
exactly.
how do I stop this? Because it just keeps coming up and like, how do I break this? So
And in my
choice,
energy school,
self-awareness.
that's what we do. It's called relationship mastery. And
Mhm.
I have worksheets, I have like the video trainings teaching the energy tools and then all the different parts of our system. And then in module 2, the worksheet is basically like your strategy map is what we're creating. It's like, okay, what have you experienced that you don't want to experience? And what have you never experienced that you do want to experience? And what's kind of in between? You've gotten to experience some of it, but not enough to your full saturation in relationship. Because the whole premise is that what's happening in the feminine energy body is 80% of how that relationship goes. So if you don't have like if your junk programs are not allowing you to get your full needs met on all of these different things, then you're going to see that in your external relationship. It's not so much like a mirror. People talk about mirror like shadow work, and that's great. I think people should do
Mhm.
shadow work as like a stepstone through so that we can see that, we have this stuff in us too, and that's a great thing. But when it comes to your relationships, it's not as much shadow as it is that females have not been trained or cultivated to have higher levels of standards in their own system, right? And in this modern day and age, we can think in our mind, my standard for this is here, but your energy body is accepting this. So it's really, you could potentially have that range, but what is your actual range? If you're being really honest, fill out the worksheet.
Mhm.
You know, it's like,
Mhm.
what have I actually experienced? And what do I actually want? And then
Mhm.
we know exactly which energetics to go in after and adjust. And you have a higher level of what you require. That word is a little challenging, but energetically, you're like, yeah, no, this is healthy for me. So I require my own health,
Mhm.
no matter what the thing is. And you embed that into your system. You don't even really have to reprogram. You just have to get rid of the junk because your essence, your heart knows what you want. And
Mhm.
that's where it's going to
And that's the
naturally
defrosting,
calibrate.
the thawing, all of that kind of stuff too. And that imagery comes in because it's like spring cleanup almost. That's just happening, right? Like let's get through this clutter. Let's get through the things. Let's do a little decluttering of our
Yes,
systems and let's move forward. So,
absolutely.
oh my gosh, you are, I am so glad that we got connected and you could be here today to share all of this amazing information with us. Thank you.
Me
Thank
too. Thank
you.
you as well.
Mhm. Okay. All right. So that, everyone, is another episode of Wellness Me Up. And here's to you getting more wellness up one episode at a time. We will catch you next time.